Welcome to another edition of Wings Weekly. Jay Kleinknecht here and head coach Scott Langer. We'll get to that in just a moment, but before we get even really get started, I want to address Elliot Leroux of the Austin Bruins. According to the Bruins website and their information, that he obviously, as you probably already know, sustained a non-life-threatening injury. He was taken to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester after being treated. He is resting at home in Austin with his billet family, and we wish him a very speedy and full recovery. Coach Langer, you're no stranger to this, and I know you always look forward to it too. But a change in the bench boss there, 10 games into the season, and I think, like a lot of people have said, it's not that the Wings were playing bad hockey necessarily. Just sometimes it's about what fits where best, that kind of thing. Are you excited to be back on the bench?
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited. I mean, I really enjoyed my role there in player personnel and the recruiting part of it. It gave me a lot of time to watch my kids and pick up my kids and be with my kids and obviously be with my family, which was hard to do with my wife being here last year, most of the year, and me being in Fargo. So I wasn't expecting to change, but when I was asked to take the bench, I had to think about it, but it wasn't too long before I made the choice that I had to be back here in front of these fans in Aberdeen and all my family members here that have been so good to me over the last 5 or 6 years that I think it was a pretty easy transition for me.
Okay. Good. Glad to hear it. Well, let's jump into the games. They're in Austin, Riverside Arena. 2-1 shootout loss on Friday. A goaltending battle, a real defensive game that just felt like something had to give. Ends up, of course, as I mentioned, going to overtime, no scoring in overtime, then on to the shootout, a 2-0 lead or advantage in the shootout, but again ended up falling there. But pick up the point for the overtime. Obviously, that's a bright spot. We talked Saturday night about Friday's game, and you felt like you liked what you saw from them, considering the position that they were in, with some changes and stuff, and not a whole lot of time in transition, but you liked what you saw for the most part on Friday, huh?
Yeah, it's a hard week for a player. They come in and there's a change and they have to adapt to a new change. The coach has to adapt to a new assistant coach and to his players, and we only had 3 days of preparation, but I think they got to know me pretty quick, that I'm a pretty fair person and I'm a players type coach, that I'm just going to treat them like pros and let them do their thing. But I thought on Tuesday or on Friday we did a pretty good job of keeping ourselves in that hockey game. Yeah. Cole Moore did a great job of, on the road sometimes teams are going to get on top of you, and they did. And Cole was really strong, gave us a chance to be in that game and get the point. We did score the first two in the shootout, which is a really good thing, but we just couldn't hold on. They played a good game over there in Austin, but I liked our effort. I liked the way that we approached the game, as far as we were forcing them to come after us. Yeah. And we were on them pretty good at times. They were on us, but it got even better on Saturday, and I know you'll touch on that, but we forced them to play against us. And that's the kind of hockey I want to bring here, where when teams come in, they know that they're going to have to play a hard, heavy hockey team, and they're going to have to chase us in order to be successful. Yeah.
Well, and the penalty kill was huge for both teams there on Friday night. And nobody scoring a power play, but again, 13 penalties assessed in that game. The kill was one of the things that you talked about making some changes to, and it came up really big for you guys. And honestly, the whole weekend was about specialty teams, really. When you take the penalty kill on Friday and then you turn around on Saturday, and we're going to get to that, like I mentioned, or you mentioned, a 5-3 win there on Saturday. Come from behind. There's some adversity, some strange situation, obviously. Again, as we talked about with Elliot Leroux and the pause there in the middle of the second while he was attended to, and of course everybody was hoping for the best there. But it's you have to go to the locker room. You have these different things happening, and your guys found a way to kind of push through all of that and end up with that 5-3 win and 2 power play goals. So we talked about special teams on Friday night being strong with the kill. Power play was really strong there on Saturday.
Yeah, Zach Zach did a really good job of making some changes there that we needed going into night 2. Obviously, when you get those type of power play goals and capitalize and come back, from being down, it's huge on your bench.
Yeah.
Like it just inflates your bench, and our penalty kill was good as well. I mean, the only goal they scored on their power play was pushed in the net by a hand, but it counted. But our special teams were good, and as you know, that adversity. When your team has to stop playing and go to the locker room, and of course all the thoughts are hoping that the player on the other side is okay. No one, as much as we compete against each other and we want to go after each other, nobody wants to see an injury on any team, not in hockey. And but our guys were good. They got their stuff put together, and when they hit the ice after that little break, I thought we played hard, and we certainly had an excuse to not, in that type of situation. So the result was what we needed, taking 3 out of 4 points in their building, and knowing that we needed points headed into Minot, where that they're having a pretty good season so far. Yeah.
Well, and you mentioned it too. Austin comes out after we resume play, and you could just see that they were energized. They wanted to win for their player, for their teammate. They were energized in a lot of ways. They were playing physical and really pushing the tempo and the pace a little bit. But like you mentioned earlier, really, it came down to you guys making them come to you in a lot of ways. You talked on Friday night about having some patience, with the players as they adjust to transition and so on. I wanted to ask you, when in your mind do you expect them to kind of be at 100%? When do they get caught up? Is it a week, 2 weeks?
I think every team that goes through this kind of change, I think that time period is just different.
Yeah.
Because you see on Saturday night, there was some things that we didn't do on Friday night that started to grow into our game on Saturday night. So as a coach, you go, okay, this might be a short learning curve. But I just think that once we kind of get, 6 games maybe under our belt where guys are being, we're asking them to make plays right now. We're asking them to do things that they haven't had. So it is going to take time. I don't know how long. But I'll tell you, as a coach, when you see one thing get better from night to night, it's exciting. Zach and I were excited to see how we were exiting our zone compared to the first night, and we were creating offense off it, and just little things like that. But this group here, I found out that they have a pretty decent IQ. Like when I put something on the board or I talk to them, they seem to go out and apply it. And you don't get that with every group. Yeah. We're fortunate enough that we have a smart enough group that I'm thinking that the learning curve will be short.
Well, and that's exactly why I brought it up, because I did seem like there was improvement from Friday to Saturday, and I thought, man, it seems like that's a pretty pretty quick learning curve. And like you said, if the hockey IQ is there, it does seem like it would shorten things up. Not to mention, you add to that the resilience of working through the adversity, like we talked about on Saturday. That's a pretty good trait that hockey teams like to have too. And I know you've dealt with that before, whether it be on a championship team or whatever, where when as a group they can fight through something, come from behind, whatever it is, it tests them to where later on in the season, they're a little more seasoned. Well,
you're 100% right. All the little adversity stuff that you deal with early and you learn to deal with. Once it comes to crunch time, when you need the big win to get into the playoffs or to win a playoff series, it's there. You've already done it, and that's the big thing. Get over the hurdles. If you allow it to continue, then that's on you. But if you go out there punching and clawing and get past these hurdles, these adversities, and you find a way on top, that's going to make you a contender in the end.
Great to see that on Saturday night. Again, early on in the season, to see that already. Well, in the standings, folks, North Iowa right now at 16 points in first place in the Central. Minot with 14, Austin with 13. Wings move up to fourth with 12 points. Bismarck with 11, and then St. Cloud with 9. And as you mentioned, Minot is playing well. They've swept North Iowa on the road down there in Mason City. And Minot's always tough, especially in their building. And, of course, we head up to Minot to play in the Mesa there. Have you had a chance to look at Minot at all? What do you got to do?
They made some acquisitions that really made them deep up front. They're a team that will attack you. Their goaltender's been playing excellent. He really has. So it's kind of fun. I have an ex-player over there on the other side of the bench now, and Kyle Sharkey, and He played for me when I was in Topeka, and now he's behind the bench, so that'll make it a little fun. Kyle and I have an unbelievable relationship, and be good to compete against him. But you know what, Minot, again, we have to make sure that we're good at our game, and we'll be fine adjusting to what Minot brings at us, but we just have to continue our work rate. And we want to outwork teams, and I know all coaches want to outwork teams. No, we honestly want work in our game.
Well, and that was something that you mentioned, midweek last week or Friday night when I talked to you pregame, that was something that you wanted to see. Is that something, and how do I put that? Like you said, you want to continue to work and continue to put that, basically not give up or not let off at all. And you saw that this week. Is there a bar, or is that one of those things where the bar is always moving? You just keep pushing more.
It's identity. It's what do you want your team to look like? And obviously I had a real short period of time to decide what kind of team I wanted this one to look like, but I think it's kind of going to grow. But there's one thing that's not debatable, and that's that we're going to get off the bus, or we're going to go out the gates at home, and we're going to have a work ethic. You may pump us 10-0, but we're going to be working as it's happening. So I want our identity to be that way, and I want teams to say, you know what, these guys, these boys are working. They're working hard. Excellent.
Well, they always say, no matter what it is, the more work you put into something, the better the results. So, all right. Well, Coach, that's all I've got for you. Thanks for joining us. I know you guys are busy and have a lot going on, so I always appreciate you taking some time to join us here on Wings Weekly.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.
All right. We'll return with the second portion of Wings Weekly and a player coming up after this.
We raise the bar on bar food with sandwiches, tenders, and there's more where this came from. To the greatest of all times.
Welcome back to Wings Weekly, and as usual, a player is joining me. This time, it is Cole Moore of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Cole, thanks for joining us here on the show.
Happy to be here.
All right. Well, let's jump right into it. You played in the OJ. You come to the North American League here and become an Aberdeen wing. Walk us through that process. How did you become a wing?
Yeah, so after my season last year, I wanted to live away from home because my first 2 years of OJ, I was able to live at home still just because it was very close.
Right.
And Langer gave me a call probably mid-July, and we had a couple phone calls just about the team, what to expect, how the players go through day to day, what it's like to be a wing. And after a couple phone calls, I really thought about it and I thought this would be the best place for me to play.
Excellent. Great story. Love that. I always ask the questions about how you get started in hockey and stuff. And for everybody, it's a little bit different, kind of the same. Usually there's a family member involved or something like that. But I always find it interesting, too, how each person becomes, each path takes them different ways. And junior hockey and, of course, becoming an Aberdeen wing is a thing in itself altogether. So now let's jump into how you got started playing.
Yeah, my dad got us skating pretty early, but we didn't get into organized hockey till I was about 7, 8 years old.
Okay.
And I guess for the goaltending part, house league hockey, everyone gets a turn to be goalie every week. So when it was my turn, I really liked it, and I guess I just stuck with it.
They say that goaltenders can be a little quirky.
They do say that.
Would you agree with that?
For the most part, yeah. I feel like I'm not as quirky as some, but I've definitely seen a few weird guys. Weird superstitions. Yeah.
Well, that can go for anybody in the locker room. It seems like I've met some people that have some pretty interesting things. I always go back to this. People have probably heard it before, but we had one guy here years ago who could not be touched by a goalie the day of a game. If a goalie'd walk by and touch him on the shoulder, you can't do that. He'd flip out. It was pretty funny. So yeah, there's lots of superstitions in hockey. We're going to get to some of yours here coming up in just a bit. I wanted to talk with you about you went back up to Toronto for your brother's wedding.
Yep.
And while that happened, there was an injury here, and were you planning on coming back that Saturday already, or was it like, oh man, what do I do?
Yeah, we booked the flights pretty early. Like even before I came to Aberdeen, we were already set on coming back Saturday.
Okay.
But I did get the call that I needed to play Saturday, so make sure you get your sleep, make sure you're not up too late. So yeah.
I wondered how that went, because I was pretty surprised. I didn't figure you'd be back till maybe Monday or something. So when I saw you on the line chart, I looked at the coach and I'm like, how's that work? And he's like, well, I told him, pack your stuff and get here as soon as you can.
Yep.
So that's got to be kind of an interesting scenario. Were you pretty surprised at that, I would imagine?
Yeah, definitely. I was having a nice steak and I got a text saying you're in tomorrow. So I was a little surprised.
Okay. Yeah. And again, I just wanted to kind of talk about how you got the news of that, of that injury and so on. Central Division Star of the Week a couple weeks ago, after sweeping St. Cloud up there in the MAC. I wanted to talk with you a little bit about, you've played exceptionally well on many occasions. Every now and then a goal goes in or a puck goes in, like Coach just said, maybe it was knocked in with a hand or maybe it was off a stick, bounced. They take some funny bounces and stuff sometimes. Yeah. All right, is there a time when you're ever completely confident, like when you're feeling it, when it's just like nothing is getting past me? And then maybe on the flip side of that, there's a time where you feel a little shaky. Is that a thing?
Yeah, there's always sometimes one of those games where the puck looks like a beach ball, everything's in slow motion, like you're on. Mm-hmm. And there's other times when you're chasing the game, and that's sort of just how goaltending is. It's never going to be the same, and sometimes you just have to fight through it. Yeah.
Well, and that leads me to my next question, because as you said, it is part of goaltending. You have to fight through a lot. Mm. Does it get frustrating sometimes? Like you said, sometimes maybe you're chasing the game a little bit. How do you, as not only as a goaltender but as a person, how do you handle that?
Yeah. Well, being a goalie for so long, I mean, there's definitely times where it's frustrating on the ice, but I feel like I'm in control with my emotions, and I don't want the other team to see that I'm frustrated or down after a goal. I do a lot of work with Josh, our goalie coach, on the mental aspect of the game. Mm-hmm. We have long phone calls every week talking about what to do after goals, how did I look after this, so definitely something to keep in the back of your mind.
Short memory.
Yeah.
Important. Okay. I had someone ask me this, and I thought it was interesting, and I wanted to run it past you. I don't want to say every time or every player, but it seems like every team has a guy that will go past the goaltenders, and maybe take a stick to the pads or something like that, and just kind of say something before a face-off or whatever. And someone goes, "What do you suppose they say to him?" I'm like, "Well, I imagine they say, 'Hey, you got this. You're looking great,' or whatever." Is there something that is more standard that players say to you guys when you're standing there?
Yeah, like for the most part, most guys actually come to talk to me. If I let in a goal last game, Contessa said, like, "We got this. We're gonna score for you. We got this." Other times we talk about maybe a play that happened, like Broderick last game just said, like, "Talk to us, make sure," because Austin was, I guess, cheating the zone a little bit, so just make sure the D know what we're doing.
It's a lot of communication.
Yeah.
So it's not just, "Hey, how you doing?" Whatever. It's a lot of times it's communication about things that are going on in the game and as it's happening.
Yeah.
Great to have that support system too, where when your teammates are there with you, because you're on an island, in a lot of senses. Yeah, as a goaltender, you're there by yourself,
yeah.
and it's important, I would imagine, for goaltenders to feel like they are part of things, and that they have the teammates that are there saying, "Hey, we got this for you." So, very cool. All right, we talked about superstitions. Do you have any?
I wouldn't say that I have any superstitions, but I definitely have a routine that I like to go through on game days, just sort of like time related, I guess. Like, I like to ride the bike a certain time, I like to stretch a certain time.
Okay.
That would be my only superstitions.
Scheduling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like when you in a middle of a win streak, you can't change things up. So it's sort of the same thing in that sense. All right. How about away from the ice? Do you have any hobbies? Would you like to go fishing or anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, it's a little cold now, but the guys like to go golfing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Can't do it now. I like cooking. I enjoy doing that with my billets a lot. And away from the rink, guys just like hanging out. If it's watching a movie, if it's watching the football game.
Sure.
We all like to spend time with each other away from the rink. And yeah.
What's your go-to, if you were asked to prepare a meal for somebody important, whatever, what would your go-to be?
Probably steak.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, most people like it.
Bird of beef, salt and pepper. How do you prepare it? What's your
Salt, pepper on a grill.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. All right. Okay, now we talked a little bit about your history, about getting started in hockey and all of that. Tell us a little bit about your family life. You have brothers and sisters or anything?
Yeah, I have 2 brothers, so I'm the middle of 2.
That's kind of a dumb question considering I know you were
Yeah.
at a wedding. So
Yeah, he's 29 years old. Younger brother is only a year younger than me, and we're all athletes. We all started in hockey, but my older brother branched off to beach volleyball, had his career with Team Canada Beach Volleyball, and my younger brother branched out into rugby. Right now is playing university rugby back in Canada.
very cool.
Yeah, only want to stick with hockey.
The Canadian national team beach volleyball, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is cool. And rugby, yeah, not exactly a sport that's all that popular in the United States, but very cool. Okay, and of course your parents obviously very involved
Mm-hmm.
with helping you along the way and
sure.
along your journey here for hockey. Okay, now I got to ask you a goofy question. What animal would you be and why? Like if you were any animal out there, you could be a grizzly bear, you could be a seal, whatever. What would you be?
Probably with goalies, I guess for the most part, it's a cat, tiger. We're stoic on the ice, but we're still like aggressive. We can we're flexible.
And ready to pounce.
Exactly.
Okay, now follow-up question. And this is I'm not entirely sure how to word this, but what animal would you be most afraid to be attacked by? Like what do you think? Like because sometimes you think, okay, well I could probably fight that off, but that one, no, I couldn't. You know what I mean?
I say with a bear or anything in the water, you don't have any chance. No chance.
Yeah, I actually had someone say, an alligator or crocodile or something, and I was like, yeah, on ground, I know they're still fast, but I would feel a lot better on the ground than I would in the water.
Yeah,
in the water,
run in a zigzag pattern.
Yeah. But in the water, you can't really do that. So, okay, we are headed up to Minot here this weekend to the Mesa Ice Arena. You first-year guys haven't been up there. Really nice facility there in Minot, and they always play tough. And I know early on in the week here and in the season, haven't seen these guys yet. Don't know a lot about them as far as game planning and all that kind of stuff goes. But maybe you can talk a little bit about as a team. What is this group? What do you guys have to do to come away with a couple wins here this weekend?
We're gonna have a good week of practices. I know Langer. It's been really up tempo, making the guys make plays under pressure. And Steps does a great job with videos, so we're going to get as much information as we can from Minot to get ready for the series and hopefully be a good weekend of games.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Coach said, it's all about work too. I think sometimes people don't understand or underestimate the amount of work that goes into, each week and preparing for every team, really. So. Okay, well, Cole, I appreciate you coming on. That's really about all I've got for you. So, it's always, like I always tell people, it's a great opportunity for our fans to get to know you guys and see a little personality and stuff. Probably even more so for goaltenders because, there's not a lot of interaction, you know what I mean? They see after a big windmill save or something, see a little bit of excitement, but that's about it. You don't see some of the interaction with other players like you do for a skate-out player. So, again, thanks for coming on. Wings hit the road this weekend to take on the Minot Minotauros, as we talked about, for the first time in the 2022-2023 season. Puck drops inside the Mesa Arena on Friday and Saturday night at 7:35. Catch the action using your Hockey TV login or watch the games at Buffalo Wings and Rings in Aberdeen, the official home for all Wings away games. The game's audio will be broadcast via Hub City Radio's 94.1 The Rock, or you can download the Rock app and listen anywhere you go. Wings hockey clinics with assistant coach Zach Stepan continue. Up next, He'll be hosting a shooting session on Sunday, October 30th, right here at the Odie. For more information or to get your youth skater registered, visit AberdeenWings.com. A few corporate night sponsorships are still available for the 2022-2023 season. Call Aaron at 380-5852 to see what's open. Don't forget, you can listen to Wings Weekly on the go via our podcast. Find the audio for this season's episodes on Spotify, Stitcher, or iHeartRadio. And for all the latest news and information on the Wings, visit AberdeenWings.com or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok. Once again, Cole Moore, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, thanks so much for joining us here on Wings Weekly.
Yeah, happy to be here.
All right, folks, that'll wrap up this week's Wings Weekly.